Good morning, kids. Today we're checking out a brand new video from Popcraft Studios of turning dinosaurs into demons, Part 4. Now, you're probably wondering, Part 4? Where are the other 3? Well, I'm not gonna go back and check them out. Dinosaurs to demons, what all is there to know? So, let's hop in and see how he changes up these prehistoric monsters into primordial demons.
Even though I just did a Dinosaurs as Aliens episode, I felt like I was overdue to get back to a
good.
Dinosaur Demons video. Though this time, story-wise, I'm going to be doing things a little bit differently. Instead of having individual lore for each dinosaur demon, I'm going to do one progressing story in my Multiverse Tales series with some of my own original characters, some of whom are already directly tied into the demon storylines on here. Also, in classic Popcross fashion, some of the dinosaurs in this episode aren't actually technically dinosaurs, but at this point I didn't want to change the series name to Prehistoric Creatures as Demons or something, so we're sticking with Dinosaurs as Demons. Now, I hope you all enjoy the slight shift in formula for a classic series on here. Let's
go.
Hit like if you want. Subscribe
if you feel like it. But either way, enjoy the show.
Mara barely noticed the frigid waters.
Yes, the Dunkloosaurus! Oh, this is actually one of my favorite aquatic dinosaurs.
Splashing across her face as the island ahead grew larger and larger. In all her time hunting demons, she'd never killed a demon general. But she knew that had to change today. Over the whir of the motor, Kate asked, "So, how many do you think we should be expecting?" Mara broke her stare of the approaching island and turned to her semi-frequent demon-hunting ally. Kate may not have had any superpowers, but she'd proven to be an incredibly skilled hunter, slaying demons with her silver knife, given to her by their mutual friend and teammate, Sterling. I don't know, to be honest. We've taken out 12 of Sorieklis's dinosaur demons in the last few months, but at last count, he still had at least 16 others. I don't think he'd call all of them in to protect him, but he probably knows we're coming for him, so we should be ready for anything.
Yeah, he probably
She turned with a slight smile to the burly man steering the boat. Which is why we've got the team powerhouse with us, right? Heath Hurricane Reynolds laughed proudly. Him coming along was a risky thing to attempt, as the overseer of Mara's world, Fear herself, normally banished anyone with superpowers, other than Mara. Luckily, their friend Astra had managed to figure out a way to temporarily mask his energy from Fear, though they hadn't been sure it would actually work until he joined them that day. "I appreciate the compliment, Mara, but I'm pretty sure we all know that's empty flattery. I haven't been the powerhouse of this group since you joined up. But if you want to test that theory, we could use this mission as a little competition." Mara rubbed her neck.
I guess you could.
I don't know. I'm not really that competitive. Come on, you gotta give me a chance to prove I can hold my own against you. How about whoever kills the most demons on this mission has to pay Vasilia to make the other person a Buster Sword, as a sign of them being the team's true powerhouse? How about that?
You know what,
Mara
that's a good
had
deal.
always
I'll
wanted
take
a
you up
weapon
on
from
that.
Heath's armor-crafting girlfriend, Vasilia, but had been too shy to ask. Okay, sure, you're...
I feel you approaching, Nightmare Hunter.
Oh god.
Don't keep me waiting.
Mara whipped her head back towards the island. They were only 40 meters offshore now. Did you guys hear that? But before they could answer, the front of the boat was flung into the air, and the whole vessel flipped. Mara and Heath were hurled into the water, but Kate clung to the inside of the boat. Mara transformed immediately into her full demon state and opened her glowing purple eyes wide in the water.
Something to quickly say about the Dunkloosaurus is that if you look at it, it does not have teeth. The sharp blade things that look like teeth, that's actually just its skull extended beyond its actual flesh. So it's literally a cleaver. Now what he's done here is that he's kind of turned that into more of armor around the mouth and gave it actual teeth.
To see a 9-meter-long, armored sea beast gliding towards her with its maw spread wide. She spun herself around as fast as she could and smacked her clubbed tail against its head. But that barely nudged it off course. It thrust its head at her again and chomped onto her tail. It immediately started swimming down, pulling her farther into the depths. Mara spun through the water, trying to get some bearings to take a swing at the demon's back. But before she got a chance, the water swirled around her and the creature as a figure shot down below the beast, cutting it off.
Ooh.
Heath spun back towards the demon with a sparking fist. He was clearly trying to call out his move, a hurricane hammer, but not much was coming from his mouth other than bubbles. Still, he swung his fist as quickly as he could in the water and smashed into the creature's skull. The water around them thrust upwards with the force, but the armor was barely cracked, and the creature kept swimming down, tackling right into Heath. He held tight and instead of attempting another swing, grabbed the creature's jaw and wrenched it open, releasing Mara's tail. Heath pushed away and they both shot up towards the surface and in the direction of land. They reached air and quickly got to a place.
Yeah, the Dunkosaurus' head was like almost 100% armored. So that would explain why even hitting the head at full power is just gonna make it go instead of, all that.
Where they could stand. Mara spat out water as she said, "Oh, that's gotta be Dunk Armorot. It's a demon with harder armor than any other. If we want to kill it, we're gonna have to go for the parts without armored plating."
Good to know, but don't forget I'm still your competition right now.
Go for the
Wait,
kills.
Where's Kate?
Suddenly, the beast burst out of the water and soared towards them. They both readied to take a swing, then saw, as it crashed to the shallow water near them, their third ally was clung to its head, with her blade forced straight through its eye.
Oh.
The creature writhed and swung its tail at her, but Kate slid off its back, ducking the blow, pulling her blade free, and immediately sticking it into an exposed part of the creature's neck. It shrieked and whipped its head at her, but she stepped back, then thrust her blade right up into the top of the beast's mouth. Finally,
Damn.
it stopped thrashing. Its body went limp, and its armored plates started to crack and wither into ash. Mara and Heath watched in awe as Kate, unfazed by the ordeal, walked through the water, passing them both as she said, "Well, that's one for me. Tell Vasilia I want pink grip on my sword. It'll match my hair."
You know what? This is a good one to start off with. The Dunkosaurus. Really, that is actually a very good one to start off with.
Heath and Mara followed after
Ooh,
Kate as they all
Stegosaur.
headed into the forest towards a small mountain in the island's center. They all had their heads on a swivel, on the lookout for more demons. Mara
Doesn't
kept
love
replaying in
Stegosaur.
her head the voice she'd heard. She knew it was possible Saurieklis could talk, and maybe even project its voice into the minds of others. It was hard to rule out anything with a demon general, but she'd never heard any reports of it doing so. Could there be another demon general on the island waiting for them?
Hey, Kate.
Maybe.
Heath said, looking down at her leg.
That was an epic kill and all, but you good? It looks like the thing got you there.
Kate didn't even glance down at the red stain around a cut in her pants. "No, that was me. I banked on the thing being drawn to blood, so I cut my leg to get it to come at me."
Ah.
Wow, you're really something, but
Hardcore
don't think I'm
bitch.
gonna go easy on you just because you've got no powers. I was at a disadvantage underwater, but up here, a proper hurricane hammer will take out any demon we find.
"I guess we'll see," she said as she grabbed Heath's shoulder and forced him to duck. Before he could protest, a green, jagged rock shot just over his head and sliced a tree behind them in half. It tumbled over as
Oh,
Kate pointed them
shit.
towards a creature through the trees to their left. It stood on all fours at roughly 16 feet.
Okay, I'm going to take a guess. This one's going to be called like Stegosaurus or something. Because it's based on a stegosaur, and he just said it sliced through the tree like a hot knife through butter.
Tall with green spikes and plates emerging from its back and tail. As it stomped on the ground towards them, more green shards sprung up like daggers around its feet.
Oh, I'm not giving you two a chance on this one.
Heath said as he leapt forward in a swirl of wind. Mara was about to charge in too, when Kate warned, "Hey, watch your ankles." Mara looked down just as a tangle of yellow hair wrapped around her and ripped her off her feet, dragging her back into the woods. Kate looked at Mara as she was pulled away, then over to Heath. She'd fought with Mara enough times to know that she could definitely handle herself, so she ran in towards Hurricane. She was more interested in showing him up anyway. Heath was throwing swings at the demon's head, and these blows were certainly doing more than they had done to Dunk Armorot. Each blow was cracking off chunks of the demon's plated head, but every time it revealed more of its skin, there were more misshapen red eyes peering through from beneath. Heath expected to be
Ooh.
blocking a blow from its tail at some point, but instead was thrown off as it quickly ducked its head and flung its whole body into a somersault, sending its spine blades towards him. He thrust his arms up to catch it and managed to hold it in place.
Oh,
he
it's
lifted
spin
it
dash.
into the air, but the shards he held cut into his palms. As soon as they did, his vision started to distort. It was suddenly like he was looking at the world through a broken kaleidoscope, with multiple angles of everything overwhelming his sight. He closed his eyes and leapt into the air, still holding the demon.
Hurricane, hurl!
He smashed the creature straight back into the ground, and a crack
Damn.
of lightning exploded from the sky onto it as it cratered into the earth. Heath landed and
Nice
stumbled
job.
next to it, opening his eyes again, but everything was still distorted and spinning around. though he could make out a brief glimpse of Kate running at the demon with her knife drawn. As she approached, the demon tensed its whole body, and more shards exploded out of it towards her. She dove and slid under the first batch, but it unleashed more and more towards her,
What,
and
is
she
this thing a
had to
porcupine?
retreat, giving Heath another shot. He closed his eyes again and hurled his body towards the creature, full force, solely based on sound. He tackled right into the demon's head while it was distracted with Kate, and gripped it around the jaw and skull.
If you think I'm afraid of fighting without sight, demon, you clearly don't know Heath Hurricane Reynolds.
Rip the head
A
open.
vortex
Rip
of
the
wind
head open.
erupted around him as he pressed his feet onto the creature's legs and ripped his upper body backwards. He tore the creature's head right off and flew backwards. He crashed to the ground, still holding the skull in his hands, and it immediately started breaking down into ash and green dust. As it did, Heath's vision returned to normal.
There, this contest is all tied. Hey,
But he looked towards Kate to see that she was already running back through the woods towards Mara and the demon that she faced.
Ah, yes. So let's see, this one is called Stegamoxy? Stegimaxi?
Well, the other two had...
What the? Oh, hold on, folks. We'll be right back. And we're back.
had handled the green-bladed demon, Mara had been dragged into a fight with a yellow, hairy beast with massive tusks and a trunk. She'd managed to rip her leg free, but another set of hairy tendrils had quickly wrapped around her arms and waist. She swung her tail around her body and over the hairy strands, then smashed it down onto them. The blow whipped the demon's body down, crashing its head into the dirt, but more and more hair just came after her. Her tail was soon pinned to her back, and her limbs were bound as well. She tried to rip herself free, but nothing worked. The demon was shockingly strong. More and more hair just wrapped around her, and soon she could feel it starting to crawl into her ears. She thrashed her head to the side, but soon even more of the hair came up and started sliding into her nose. She opened her mouth and bit into the hair to try and keep it from going farther in, but it was a temporary measure at best.
If you can't even slay my Mammotangus here, how do you ever intend to defeat the Reaper? Let alone what comes after.
Wait, Mammotangus?
The voice from earlier spoke
Is that
again.
What he said?
Mara didn't know what it was, but she wasn't about to show it that any old demon could beat her. She tensed her entire body and shards of black demon flesh thrust from her, slicing all the hair. She wasn't sure that that would actually work, but it did, and it loosened her enough to thrust her limbs out and leap to freedom. She dove forward, and the creature thrust its mouth towards her. She whipped her tail in front of her and shoved it down the creature's throat. She then grabbed both its massive tusks and ripped them loose, then stabbed them into its front feet, pinning it to the ground. She then thrust her tail upwards as hard as she could. The beast's legs stayed pinned, but its head and body were ripped upwards, tearing off its front limbs. It hurtled into the air high above the island. Kate and Heath ran in to meet her seconds later.
Hey, Mara, you good? Where's that other demon?
The beast's body crashed back to the ground and erupted in a cloud of ash and hair. Heath waved the debris away from his face.
Oh, well, I guess we got a three-way tie now.
But Mara wasn't focused on the competition. Something's wrong here. I've never heard of that demon that I just fought before, and it seemed way stronger than it should be able to be. In my full demon form, it shouldn't have been able to bind me.
I'll say this, that is actually a pretty cool ass-looking design. It's good.
As easily as it did. I think Sorieklis has more help than we think. Mara explained the voice she'd heard in her head a few times now as they headed closer towards the mountain. She said that she didn't get the sense that it actually was Sorieklis, and soon she'd be proven right. They came to a tall, wide cave mouth in the mountain. Around it were large footprints that Mara guessed could either be the demon Gigantopodox or Carnodocyst, but she couldn't be sure. Regardless, they all marched inside, ready for anything. They eventually reached a wide open cavern with a magma river lining the walls. There didn't seem to be anyone there, but all the same, Heath called out.
Come forth, Demon General Sorieklis. We're here to challenge you. Prove your might by facing us.
There was no clear response until Mara heard.
I told the fool that my help could cost it. That the demons made from my full caliber could not be controlled by its feeble kind.
Mara couldn't see the figure, but its eerie, raspy voice seemed to grate through her mind.
No matter how revered a general may be, he will never outrank A king.
Suddenly, from another tunnel entrance,
king,
they all
yep.
heard a wheezing and scraping sound. They then saw the demon general, or at least half of it, desperately crawling its way along the ground. Its limbs were shifting at random into different dinosaur body parts, but nothing seemed to speed its crawl. Soon, though, thundering steps thumped up after it. A towering beast came into view, lowered its head, and snapped the demon general up in its jaws. It raised its head, looked at Mara, Kate, and Heath, then let out a bellowing roar with a force that sent a shockwave of ash across the cave towards them.
I mean, what's stronger than a demon general? Well, why not a demon king? Until the king of lizards.
Alright, so not the boss level we were expecting, but that doesn't change the fact that I'm gonna be the one to beat it.
Heath leapt forward like a rocket with his fist cocked back. But with shocking speed, the demon Rex sprung forward itself, and before Heath could even take a swing, it bit into his torso with 2 rows of massive teeth and slammed his head into the ground.
Ooh.
Before Heath could even cry out, it tossed him into the air, whipped around, and smacked him with its tail, sending him crashing into the wall of the cave.
Yeah,
he would have fallen straight into the magma, but Mara leapt after him and caught him, springing back off the wall to the ground. Despite Heath's elevated durability, the demon's teeth had still broken through his suit and skin. He was bleeding, though not severely. Still, they barely had a second of rest before the demon was thundering towards them again. Kate was running up behind it, blade in hand, but without even turning around, it swung its tail at her. She dove over it, but right as she was above it, it shifted its swing and smacked her up into the air, then whacked her again, sending her rolling across the ground. The demon thrust its mouth forward right towards Mara, but she snatched its lower jaw and darted sideways like a bolt.
Yeah, I'm gonna just give you guys some good luck because you're definitely gonna need it for this guy.
Of purple lightning, wrenching its head away from Heath. Though its tongue quickly sprung out longer, wrapped around her neck, and pulled her into its jaw for it to chomp down. She could feel the teeth piercing even through her demon hide, but she quickly swung her tail at its head, smashing its eye. Its head thrust aside with the blow, but it didn't release its bite. Mara shifted her hands under herself and pushed up. That finally forced the demon's mouth open, and she leapt out. The demon quickly tried snapping at her again, but Heath suddenly exploded through a gust of wind, tackling the creature's side and slamming its body to the ground. Again, though, it was faster than expected. It swung its leg around, pried its foot between itself and Heath, and kicked him back across the ground. The beast was quick to get back up, but as it did, Kate leapt onto its back and was stabbing her knife into its most exposed flesh. As the demon was distracted with her, Heath regrouped with Mara.
This might ruin our little competition, but I think this thing might need even more than a full-force hurricane hammer. How about we see what a double strike from both Sharp Gang powerhouses can do, huh?
Mara nodded and flexed her right demon fist, making it grow larger and harder. Electricity crackled around Heath's body as his eyes started to glow. They marched forward together, and as they did, the electricity on Heath's body shifted from blue to a purple hue, like the glow of Mara's eyes.
Hell yeah!
The demon, meanwhile, had snapped its arms backwards to take swipes at Kate, so she'd had to jump off it. She saw Mara and Heath coming forth, and instinctively ran back into the tunnel they came from, and lay down. She knew what kind of shockwaves either of these two could make. The demon saw the 2 sparking foes approaching, and charged at them again. They both swung their fists back as Heath yelled,
I think I'll call this one the Demon Storm Smash!
They both exploded forwards and hammered their fists simultaneously into the demon's skull. The magma around them sprung into the air, and the force hit so hard that the creature fired back through the walls of the mountain and disappeared from view. The shockwave had been so strong that it sent Kate rolling back through the tunnel. As the dust settled, Heath was barely standing upright as he'd used all his remaining energy. Mara anticipated this and steadied him, and they both started walking towards the exit to go make sure the demon truly was dead. But as she was leaving, she heard the voice again.
You have some impressive allies, Nightmare Hunter. They may help you in slaying the Reaper, but that doesn't mean that once our physical forms are complete, you'll be ready for the Archons.
Mara asked what the voice meant, but after that, all was quiet. It was gone.
Yeah, so this is pretty much kind of like the Xel'Naga from StarCraft 2. Even if you kill the physical body, the spirit will just go back to its original domain. And so, yeah, you're gonna have to go to its territory its terrain, its home, and then kill it there. Cause yeah, you ain't gonna be able to kill it on Earth.
He and Heath got outside and around the cave to find that, astoundingly, the demon was still alive. Though barely. It was flopped back onto the ground with its skull cracked open and its head barely clinging to its body. It tried to claw across the ground towards them. It opened its mouth as if ready to try and bite them again, when suddenly, a silver knife flew past Heath and Mara right into the creature's throat. It stabbed in, and finally, the beast let out one final choke and dropped, fading into a mist of ash.
Oh,
Heath
come on
and Mara
now.
watched as Kate walked right into the beast's fading body and grabbed her knife off the ground. Well, that's 2 for me, but I guess we can call it a draw. I mean, you guys did do most of the work on that last one.
Yeah.
Heath tiredly
Yeah.
laughed.
No, I think you earned it. We'll make sure Vasilia gets you that sword. Right, Mara?
Mara smiled slightly and nodded, but she was far too distracted to revel in the victory. Sure, Sorieklis was dead, but the rest of his dinosaur demons were still out there, and worse still, what was this new threat they had to worry about? What were the Archons?
Okay, I may need to go back and actually watch the ones in private to actually get like the whole story. But this was awesome.
I honestly think that T-Rex design is a next level demon on here. I was taking a lot of inspiration from the artist Joe Madureira, and oh man, I gotta look at his work more often. If you want more videos like this, you might like my recent Dinosaurs as Aliens episode, or my full series of Dinosaurs as Demons. There's 3 other episodes on here already. Also, all of the links from this and high-resolution art are already up on Patreon, and people who support me on there for $5 a month also have access to another 15 hours of podcast content from me, which is currently growing every week. But besides that, that's all for today, except of course for ending this video on some kind of positive or inspiring note. And the thought I want to leave people with today is some advice from someone, myself, who used to be very change phobic, and I've now realized that life becomes so much better when you learn to embrace and grow with change. Some of the most difficult, uncomfortable changes I've gone through in the last few years ended up bringing me to the person I am now, which is a so much nicer version of myself to be than who I used to be before those changes. I think it's really important to try and keep in mind that some of the best things in our lives can come from really uncomfortable change. I hope that's inspiring. I love you all, and I'll see you all in the next episode on Monday. Goodbye.
And with that, folks, that's what we're going to call today's video. I hope you all enjoyed this. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more. Link to the original will be in the description below. And I'll see all you folks next time when we flick on. Peace out.